I think we are good in the hood.
Yeah, you're live.
Sorry for the late start in qualifying. My name is Jamie Perry. You can call me Jane PM. Terry box by the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, the greatest of all time. It is Wayne Morris.
The eastern states, a little bit ahead of you. How's the weather over there in WA today?
To pre-season and get to see what the drivers are made of here in what is, I guess, a showcase race more than anything. How do you think these drivers will go?
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to watching Mehdi out on track, the Aston Martin driver, me being the Aston Martin TP this season. But many a fast driver in this class could go anywhere. MX making his comeback after missing most of last season. Marty B was the bridesmaid in last season, so he'll be looking to improve. Alan Santa, a well-seasoned veteran of Inters Racing League, another fast driver there. And Brosov is, after having a poor performance in Bahrain last night on Australia Day, is back reserving for his AlphaTauri team.
Well, Batman currently on his fast laps, third sector at the moment. Red Bull driver entering into the final corner, which actually counts as two corners, 14 and 15. Bahrain's a bit interesting, apparently, from the compounds, but I could be thinking about the wrong cat. DRS across the timing line, 130, flat on 9. Not too hardest in the Pirelli range. There is a track I was thinking of that uses C0s, C2s to C3s. Thought it may have been Bahrain, but clearly the wrong track. But no, there you go, hardest in the Pirelli range.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Batman. And look at that, that's the Aston Martin team pumping the laps in there. Good one, Mehdi. Just talking to Mehdi before the race, and he was saying it's not his favourite track, so great to see him pumping out the fastest lap so early.
Yep. Tell you what, there's a couple other people who are currently pushing on their fast laps, including Buster in the Alpine 121.514, currently on board with TMT Legend in the Alfa Romeo. What about the McLaren of eBay Boy up to P4 with the 29.673? The Italian constructor of Alfa Romeo of TMT Legend currently going through turn 10, the tricky turn 10. You do not want to mess up your your brakes there. You could lock up your front or rear tires there. You could lock up both. It is a very, very tricky corner, especially when you're kind of mid-rotation through it. But Alfa Romeo doing a fantastic job being very light on those brakes through the corner. Already going up in elevation towards 11, 12 through the apex, and then up to 13 at the very peak. Once again rotating through the corner, does a fantastic job, but unfortunately on the white line gets a little too overzealous there, and now sees himself out of a lap, but invalidates, and I'm sure he will go once again. 46% battery coming into what would be turn 14, kink again turn 15. That's going to be interesting, but looks like Mitz or Mats, or however you say that with the X, currently P3 and currently on a fast lap.
Yeah, just MX there, and super fast driver. He's currently going through sector 2. Let's see where he finishes in the sector 2 time range. He's just coming to that long straight where he'll activate the DRS wing.
Brian Bromley P2.
Kind of times, yeah. Brian Bromley is another fast racer from OSRL.
Yep.
But yeah, MX just about to come to the end of sector 2 here. Let's see, he's improved by 0.3 of a second. So yeah, and also put in the fastest sector time in sector 2. So it looks like he could be carrying a low downforce setup for MX in the Williams driver. As I say, he missed out most of last season, did MX. I think he had a
29.025. That is provisional pole for the Williams driver. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, and 0.3, but someone's gone fastest sectors 1 and 2. Just
it might be JT Carly. He is only entering the second sector now. Keeping out, it might be the Alfa Romeo of TMT Legend, currently in the third sector, 108.320, entering into the second. So we'll have to keep an eye on how he does. But it does look like he's pulling over into the pit lane, so I don't think it would be him. What about JT Carly?
JT Carly's hasn't improved on his time, so he's dropped 0.2 there, but could still improve on his overall lap time. JT Cali is known around the DRS traps for his racing, and won Tier 3 there last year. So expecting a lot of fast action laps from JP. I was going to call him JP.
Yeah, JP, nice.
JT Kelly this season in his racing.
The only place you're going to see me setting down lap times is the ACC, but here on F1, yeah, the ACC, but no, here on F1 I am a simple commentator. Either way, the Ferrari of Gen FLI currently in P10. He'll be making his way back to the pit lane as he starts to approach. DRS now shuts and brakes nice and easily. What about Tetris currently on his fast lap? A tenth and a half up as he enters into the final corner. DRS will be active, flat to the floor, pedal to metal all the way to the timing line. It is a 29.776 P7 on the board. 1.5 tenths improvement stays there, and majority of the field now in the pit lane.
That's a great time there from the Tier 3 driver of Tetris, who's reserving up today for the Williams team.
Or it could be foreshadowing for the future. Looks like Sam RR, or actually no, it will be the McLaren of Marty B, who will actually start to finish up his lap time. Over a tenth and a half improvement across the lines. 4.5 tenths, 29.598 ahead of his teammate of eBay Boy, and Marty B goes P5. Not bad from who are going to be very soon switching over to their fast laps. We had what looked to be Sam RR, who was going to start his fast lap on an out lap, but he's come back into the pit lane, so that will be it all she wrote for Haas. We have 3 people currently on an out lap, and Buster, who's actually, no, he's back in. I thought he was pushing. We got Marty B, who's currently still out, just finishing up what he had. Tetris also coming back in as he's finished what he had, and we have pretty much only 3 drivers preparing for one final push for here in qualifying.
Yeah, so we've got a Battle Cat there in the Alfa Romeo on an outlap, Brosov on an outlap, and JT Kelly also out of the pits early on their outlaps.
I'll tell you what, we haven't really had the opportunity to have an onboard lap here. Wayno, take it away with Brosov Coupe.
So let's get on board with Brosov now, not only the team owner and team principal of the AlphaTauri team, but the new owner of Inters Racing League, also reserving up tonight in the AlphaTauri from Tier 2 to give it a go in Tier 2, up from Tier 3 as he goes around, comes to an end of Sector 1, and he's up over 2 tenths on his time. So great improvement here from Brosov Cup as he now heads down to, I think it's turn 8, 9?
So he's approaching 9 and now 10.
No, 10, yeah, so 9, 10, thank you. I don't have all my normal telemetry, so I went to look at my telemetry, see where my turn number was on, but it's not on and running. So Brosov now comes down to a turn 11, 12, this tricky low traction section where you try to keep the throttle pinned, and as he gets ready to open and activate that DRS wing. Oh no DRS zone. Here, wrong track. But Brosov around the last turns now. Let's see if he can improve on his time and jump up the table. It looks like he's going to be just outside the 129, so 130.1 there from Brosov, but not a bad lap, just behind his teammate there of Alan Santa in the AlphaTauri. A good lap from him. Brian Bromley's out on a lap now also.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on the Alfa Romeo, however, because going into the final corner, looks like the Italian constructor now pushing that throttle all the way down to the floor because DRS is active, and he's 1:44.728, so he must have slipped away in his final lap. JTE Carly, like I said, the trio of people on their outlap now across the line. JTE Carly sets down a P9 of a 29.871, not bad. Let's switch over to the teammate, to Brosov Coupe. It looks like Alan Santa currently is, like you said, on an outlap, so we'll have to come back to him at a later date. What about the Alpine of Buster, currently pushing it all the way to the limit, and you can see as he makes it up the hill towards 12 and then 13 at the very peak. 6th gear, doesn't look like he's going to upshift, stays in 3rd as he continues to push on one of his final fast laps here around Bahrain International Circuit. Now down in elevation towards what is 14 and 15, break around between 100 to the 50 meter board, and now you just carry all that momentum into the final corner. 3rd sector, pedal to metal all the way to the timing line, 29.504. It's P3 on the board for Buster.
Great lap there from the Alpine driver and TP captain. Buster could definitely be one of the Tier 2 champions this year if things can go his way. But yeah, certainly it'd be interesting to see what kind of pace this Alpine TP has for the season.
Yep, Tetris just coming out on his outlap. Doesn't look like they're new fresh tyres, but could be. Red Bull also coming around there. VSC Batman up to P11 with a 30.094. Ferrari following just in pursuit. Looks like he's now pushing on his fast lap. What about the Aston Martin of, if I can find him, Medi in P2, who did take a provisional pole, got it taken away by MX in now P1 with a 29.025. But I'll tell you what, if he can find, my apologies, 0.3 of a second, then Medi could see himself back up into P1. MX won't be able to further improve. Joseph Coupe, who will, other AlphaTauri, the teammate to Joseph Coupe, it will be Alan Santa. P3 on the board, not too bad from the AlphaTauri. What about the Alpine of, not Buster, is it? It is Buster, but he is well and truly slowed down to allow the Alfa Romeo of one of the two, and it is TMT Legend, who doesn't even have a time on the board. A 107.914 around the final corner. DRS will now activate for him. Yellow sector behind as the Alpine continues to let drivers by. P13 is all she wrote for TMT Legend. What about the Mercedes of Brian Bromley, currently pushing on his fast lap? 29.171. It got close. Only P2 for the Mercedes driver. Not too bad. Hassel also across the line. Sam are only managing P4 on the board. Now we can go to the other AlphaTauri. Joseph Coupe has well and truly slowed down, so he will be P13 by the end of the session. What about the Alfa Romeo of the Battle Cat? Nearly 2/10 down going through the second sector. That is all she wrote for the AlphaTauri team. 3.9 seconds down on his time, now 5.2. Granny Fatty finishes in P9. Aston Martin of Medi started in P1, doesn't end in P1. P3 is all she wrote for the British constructor. Looks like eBay Boy. P3, not bad from the McLaren, 29.223. What about the Williams of Tetris on his fast lap? 30.5 seconds down. Nothing he can do, stays in P10. And one...
Like he might have been mowing some grass there in the Williams. He's certainly got that Williams fairly dirty.
Yeah, well, whatever the case may be, all drivers across the line except one, Mr. VSC Batman himself, absolute king of the Oceanic region, and P12 is all it will be for the Red Bull driver. Not too bad, but what I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, with everyone rather in the pit lane or over the checkered flag, and eventually VSC Batman will reach that checkered flag, MX sees himself on pole position with a 29.025, and he does it in absolute style. Roughly 1.5 tenths to 1/10 apart between Brian Bromley and MX. Brian did find some good, I guess the best way to put it, improvements compared to MX in that final lap time, but couldn't put it all together. Unfortunately, P2 is all Brian Bromley could achieve.
Yeah, some stunning laps there produced by most of the field. Surprised to see Mr. Kebab himself there up in P5. Mr. Sam RR, he has yet to have his daily spin of down to the kebab shop. So let's see how he fares out throughout the race.
As we quickly have a good look at our 16 drivers all lining up on the grid. Like we said before, MX is taking a great pole position with the 29.025. 1.5 tenths away is Brian Bromley, just under by 4 milliseconds, 1.5 tenths on the dot, but Mercedes setting down a good time nevertheless, and eBay Boy will follow right in pursuit of the Mercedes and Williams in P3, and finishing off that second row of the grid, my apologies, would be Medi in the Aston Martin. Like I said, showed some pace in the beginning, fell away by the end of qualifying, and it goes down all the way from there, all the way down to P16. But qualifying just puts you in a spot on the grid. You can win from P16, you can win from P10, you could win from P2. Qualifying really is just a place on the grid. In the race, that is where you need to put everything on the line, ladies and gentlemen. We are moments away.
As they've always said, it's points on Sunday, but on this case, on a Saturday, evening, heading towards Saturday night here in the eastern coast. Let's see if these guys, how these guys go out on track. Possibly making a few wing adjustments, tire pressure adjustments, maybe even a final diff adjustment before they get out on track. But we'll see how these boys are led away. I don't believe we have a formation lap, so I think we should be straight into a light sequence when we do eventually load in.
It shall be. What we now need to wait for is obviously drivers, team, cars, all very much prepared, getting their strategies and whatever setup they need to finalise done and dusted.
A Red Bull seems to be starting on a hard set of compound tyres. Also, Ferrari looks to be setting on a hard compound tyre for the race, unless they change that in the coming moments. But
yeah, interesting.
Usually the tyre that's in the garage there will show you what
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights here in the race for pre-season. The lights go out and it's pedal to metal here for Tier 2 IRL. Looks like it's a good getaway from MX in the Williams. Mercedes needs to try and bring up a bit more momentum. McLaren's nearly on the outside line, going wheel to wheel with the Mercedes. Going into turn 1, will it be carnage? Does look like a big send by Marty B up to P4, fighting away with Medi on the Aston Martin. Going wheel to wheel with the Haas. Looks like Marty B will get the exit necessary, and up to P5 goes the McLaren. Medi up to P3, still fighting away with the McLaren of eBay Boy. eBay Boy has nothing left in the tank, and Medi's up to P3. Fantastic stuff. Already position gained for the British constructor, making it way further down. Looks like the Haas of Sam RR going wheel to wheel, going into turn 3. Nothing coming about to, however, turn 4, my apologies. But the Haas in P6 still going to try and fight away with the McLaren if he can get the momentum necessary. Wheel to wheel action between JTE Carly and Alan Santa falls away very quickly. Looks like Batman up to P11. Fantastic stuff from the Red Bull so far, making it back through the field. Brian Bromley now's 1.2 seconds down on MX, and MX is already starting to pull away a very, very quick lead here at the start of pre-season here in Tier 2, here at Bahrain, here for 29 laps of action. Looks like TMT Legend getting a free position. The Ferrari of Granny Fatty moving out of the way, and Jenneth will be the next one to follow in pursuit.
But just looking at that gap there that MX has already opened up on those soft compound tyres versus Brian Bromley's hard compound tyres. Medi also going on a hard compound for the start. So MX opting to go soft early, and he's made that advantage work for him.
Yeah, well, we come to a close on lap 1. I'll tell you what, 1.4 seconds separate MX to Brian Bromley. Fastest lap obviously goes to MX with a 1:34.359 on those soft compound tyres. Let's get some telemetry on the board for you lovely people watching in the Twitch chat, because I'm sure it's unfair on you to not get the sneak peek on the action. Aston Martin of Medi up to P3, using the inside line, getting a lot more rotation, clearly running a bit more downforce here in Bahrain, using those hard compound tyres towards the advantage. C3s will be run for those hards, and or C1s, my apologies, C3s being the soft compound tyres. Granny has damage potentially. You could be right on that fact, because he's already back into the pit lane and already making it back out, and he did let the Alfa Romeo of TMT Legend by, so we can only assume could have been front wing damage. eBay Boy currently 3/10 behind.
He's definitely had a front wing damage. He had a 7.5 second stop there for Granny Fett in the pit stop, so he certainly did have some wing damage.
Well, tell me this, Wayne. What is your podium predictions?
My podium predictions for today, they're actually pretty much as they stand at the moment, to be honest. And I think Brian Bromley might get the pick on MX later on the race, and I'm expecting Medi to be in P3.
Interesting. Well, what I can tell you, P3 is eventually going to be attacked, because what I can tell you, eBay Boy right on the rear diffuser of the Aston Martin. Bad exit out of the DRS, even though now enabled on lap 3. Looks like the McLaren taking the inside, switches over back to the outside. Up to P3 goes the British constructor, and now if we go back up to the front, and you said Brian Bromley could get an opportunity on MX, that's looking less and less likely with this current gap of a 1.8 seconds and only 3 laps of racing.
Yeah, only 3 laps of racing in, but these soft compound tyres will be struggling pretty soon around here in Bahrain. It's a very hard track on the compound. So while MX has the advantage now, Brian Bromley is doing quite well to hold on to him with just a 2-second gap at this moment.
Yeah, I guess one thing I didn't factor in was those soft compound tires. It does help that they are the C3s, so they will degrade slower than what you'd normally see for soft compounds. They do act as hard compounds for other racing tracks, depending on where you do go. Take Hungary or Monaco, for example. Those C3s would act as the hard compound. But right now, looks like MX will be cruising on those softs for the next 10 to 15 laps before we see real degradation start to come up. Those hards will last much longer, though. 20 laps-ish, probably maybe 22, 23, if they are preserving to the best of their ability. But Brian Bromley doing a fantastic job so far. Looks like 7.5 tenths, nearly over 8 tenths now. Medi just trying to get some momentum out of the final corner, bringing himself just closer and closer to eBay Boy. But it does look like eBay Boy does have everything in the bag for him at the moment. P3 is well and truly secured.
Yeah, it's very hard to see through the smoke here, and the guys are laying a lot of rubber down on the track. Quite hard to see some of the cars coming down.
I think you'll find that might be more dust, if anything, maybe even a bit of sand coming upon the track. We are obviously in the middle of a desert, being Bahrain, but we won't judge. It just seems to be a bit of dust, and it would be more realistic to real life, to be fair. I mean, we saw a lot of dust from this year's Grand Prix, and especially when they used to race back in the day of Bahrain, and we had the hottest Grand Prix to ever take place. There was plenty of sand and dust out on track.
Yeah, indeed. One of the finer Grand Prix of the modern era, I think, is the Bahrain track myself.
It would be.
Certainly a challenging track with those low traction zones and then the high speed turns mixed with the hairpins.
Yeah, right now Aston Martin and Medi has made a good amount of momentum back on the McLaren of Marty B. 2.5 tenths currently separating them. Just needs to wait and see if he can try and keep that momentum going into the pit straight. He will now have DRS, and it does look like Marty B is flashing away with ERS battery problems already, seeing like he may have maybe not preserved it as well as maybe other drivers should have. Either way, DRS is now active, and DRS means nothing when you have so much more battery than another driver. Inside line, you're right, inside line for the Aston Martin, rotates through turn 1. Can he get the move stuck? Shuts the door well and truly on the McLaren, and P4, up he goes.
Great move there by the number 40 Aston Martin driver of Medi ML. Let's go, Medi. Push on, son. Push on.
I'm sure any Medi supporter will be saying the same thing, especially Dunno in the Twitch chat, who just said, let's go, Medi, when we first started the stream. So there you go, a nice indicator of that. Either way, if we make our way back through the second sector towards turns 7, and now what would be 8 out of the exit of the hairpin-esque corner, it looks like now a good 3-way, maybe 4-way battle really starting to carry on as we enter into turn 10.
And Brian Bromley is managing to hold on to MX. Unless MX is saving those tyres, but still only a 1.8 second lead with those soft compound over the hard compound of Brian Bromley. So Brian Bromley doing extremely well to hang on to MX at this stage.
I think it's also going to be quite necessary to bring this up. So right now, obviously, makes sense for the soft compounds to be the fastest, mediums to be the second fastest, and hardest to be the slowest of the range, but not exactly slow, right? Now, let's take the delta for these, as I have the notes for it exactly. Using predictions here and using statistics from other races and just using Urban Cypher giving me plenty of information. The delta between these tyres, the C1s, C2s, and C3s here at Bahrain, delta for hard compounds 6.5 tenths slower than the mediums. The mediums are 4.5 tenths slower than the softs. So it's going to be interesting if we can maybe see a bit of a battle going on quite early on in this race. We're still only 5 laps in between MX and Brian Bromley. JT Carley has now left the session. He's exited, he has retired, and he's at least done it in the pit lane. But that is all it has written for the Haas driver.
I'm just seeing VSC Batman and Jennifer Lee trading spots there back in P11 and P12. Janet Lee's not ready to let go of Batman just yet. He's holding on to the back of them. They've just switched positions after 5 laps. on the
Yeah.
medium compound tyre.
But yes, as I just said, there is, well, I mean, if we include the delta for mediums, there, like I said, 6.5 tenths difference between the hards and the soft compounds. So there is obviously a delta difference, but that is like fresh new, brand new at temperature tires. Now that they're both on 5-lap-old compounds, though, you know, MX is on C1 compounds, or C3 because he's on the softs, and Brian Bromley on the C1s because he's on hards, though that is the case, we're going to see Brian Bromley starting to make a bit more time, and you can see that exactly with 1.1 seconds currently separating the field between those two. We'll have to come back at him, because right now we're currently on a 3-way battle between 12, 11 and 10, and it's rather points or no points at the moment with these current battles, and 1.1 seconds separating Brian Bromley to MX, still continuing to try and keep that gap as consistent as possible. Buster up to P6, Batman up to P10. Looks like Jeneth is going to follow it through on the outside line. Looks like Red Bull and Ferrari both making moves as they get past Battle Cat, and this battle between Ferrari and Red Bull can now continue.
Wow, what racing there, and surprised Battle Cat had succumbed to places so easy, but Battle Cat hasn't given up and is now clawing at the back of Jeneth Lee.
Yep, and a little bit more information for you lovely viewers at home. The soft compounds can roughly last from the delta 13 laps of action, mediums 18 laps of action, and the hards 20 laps of action, just to give you a bit more precise detail with both the track and the C1, C2 and C3 compounds. Looks like
that would be maximum life of
yeah,
the
that
tire,
would be.
right?
That would be maximum life, roughly those laps there. That's reaching high 60s at that point.
Yeah, so look at Brian Bromley's now closed that gap to just half a second there on MX, and I was looking at Brian Bromley's tyre wear.
Here we go. We're not going to wait long. We're not going to wait long. Here comes the Mercedes. Brian Bromley inside line does send it late on the brakes, and the move is set in stone, ladies and gentlemen. New leader of the race here in Bahrain, and MX will not give up without a fight, and he will have DRS going into turn 1, and now the pitch straight, and now the Williams taking full advantage of it all. He must have just backed off a little bit, allowing for almost a bit of DRS chicken, but now it can go back in Brian Bromley's favour because he'll now have DRS. Medi up to P3, fighting away with the McLaren of eBay boy. Have a look at the Mercedes once again. Brian Bromley looking for another opportunity. 5.5 tenths now, still not getting close enough to make the move. Going into turn 4, it stays as it is. Marty B up to P6, potentially P5 as he can make the move on Buster, make it 2 moves and 1 straight. Takes the inside line late on the brakes, takes a bit too much curb, and now Buster can use the outside towards his advantage. Going down, using the inside, switches over to the outside in a moment, and Alpine for the time being stays in P5.
Wow, some tremendous action and tremendous overtaking there from both Brian Bromley and Medi, but Brian Bromley now relegated back to P2. And Medi will be soon
Ferrari stopped on the track, yellow flag deployed. Jeneth has gone spinning. Doesn't look like too much damage, or any damage for that matter, on the carb. Now just taking the runoff before rejoining the track over the curb at P13 is where Jeneth now sits. TMT Legend up to P14, using the inside line out of the exit of turn 4, and that is now another position gained for TMT Legend in the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, I can report Jeneth definitely not carrying any damage from that spin, so he's clear of damage at the back there. But this is definitely a 3-way battle up the front now as Medi enters into the DRS zone of Brian Bromley just ahead of him.
It also looks like Marty B currently in P6. He's going to get a really nice run through here on the Alpine of Buster. Remember, we saw a move from Buster back on Marty B. Marty B took too much curb, going into turn 4, but now we can just see a very clean and swift move. And it looks like Sam RR is going to try and make it 2 moves. Now it lost for Buster. Buster's going to keep fighting it outside line once again, working in the advantage of the Alpine. He's down a position. Brian Bromley really starting to fight away with the Williams. Let's go back up to the front as we were getting caught up in the midfield battles. Looks like the Mercedes taking the outside line, contact to the rear tyre, still fighting away, got close, not close enough. Looks like an Alfa Romeo going into turn 3, also having a mistake there. Yellow flag currently deployed. Let's go sticking with the Mercedes. Brian Bromley currently in P2, continuing to try and bring himself closer and closer per lap. 5.5 tenths as they enter out of the exit of turn 8. This is not done. Turn 9 and 10 needs to brake early, not making sure not to lock up the tyres. Fantastic braking point. Does look like Williams getting a little squirrely on the exit. Now have a look at the Mercedes using DRS and DRS towards his advantage. Now using using everything he's got. Outside line, he's going to be late on the brakes towards the 50-meter breakboard. Now trying to make the switchback. Defended off. Great defending from the Williams for the time being. 3.5 tenths as we go up in elevation towards turn 12. And then at the peak of the hill at turn 13. Once again, the Williams giving it everything he's got all the way to turn 10. And, two towards lap 10. And it is not done yet. That is for sure. And as always, it's not done yet. This action always lasts till the very last lap, until the checkered flag is waved and we can say there is a final winner. But what I can tell you, MX currently on those soft compound tires is going to make everything he's got of it. Using DRS though, the Mercedes is going to come back at him, squirreling left and right, trying to get the absolute most of it. But now it may be done. Now it could be position made once again, the same line that he took last lap. Brian Bromley's going to use a much better line to try and make the switchback finally come into something more predominant. Still not done yet. P2 still secured for Brian Bromley in the Mercedes. This battle has lasted a full 2. Looks like Medi bad exit, using the rear against them, and now going through turns 5, 6, 7, all continuing to fight away. And have a look at this. We're going to have a 4-way battle for the lead.
Wow. That's amazing, and amazing calling there by yourself, JP. But Brian Bromley's hard compound tyres now in the 30% range. So MX's tyres in front of him must be at torture stage, approaching the 40s or 50s at this moment.
What I can tell you, even with DRS a bit of a strain forming above anything else, Mercedes of Brian Bromley 5.5 tenths. I can guarantee you MX is saving that ERS, but he's clearly dumping it on the straights, trying to defend as much as possible. Those soft compounds, he's trying to make the most of it. Like I said, they are only the C3 compounds. They can last a bit longer, but 13 is their maximum. He needs to think about this. He needs to realize that this lead that he's currently holding on to, he may need to switch over to an undercut strategy, which I'm sure he's going for on those soft compounds either way, and he needs to make the most of it. He needs to try and push as hard as he can on an in-lap and try and get the best exit possible out of that pit lane, and have the best outlap as well. Maybe potentially securing another P1 if that strategy does work in his favor. Brian Bromley 5.5, nearly 6 tenths separating them now, and it does look like MX has been able to pull away slightly. Sam R up to P5, making the move on the McLaren of on Marty B, and signed to approach eBay Boy 4.7 seconds, that current gap. Top 3 still looking very similar, and obviously eBay Boy, pardon me, continuing to get DRS on the rest of the field, but the gap has started to increase a lot more compared to previous laps.
Yeah, well, it could be E-Boy Bay's tyres are now, he's on the medium compound, of course. He's probably just starting, his medium tyres just starting to suffer now, where those hard compound tyres still got a bit of life left in them, as eBay Boy tries to pull up to the rear bumper of Medi in front. But MX still staying out. Really surprised. He must be trying to hang in, hoping for there will be a safety car. But this is a big, wide track, and very unlikely that a safety car will come, especially with the field being spread out. There is a bit of a battle, of course, happening between Sam R and Marty B, and Busta there from P5 to P7. Alan Santa on the back of that, of course, as well, with Tetris bringing up the rear of that train from P5 down to P9. Great job there from
have a look at eBay Boy though, not even got DRS active, and he's almost will to will them using the inside line. Looks like Aston Martin able to bring some of that pace back to him, using DRS towards his advantage. Buster and Alan Santa going in pit lane for them, and looks like a real wide line for the McLaren. Sends out the Aston wide as well, and eBay Boy's up to P3, using that squeeze towards his advantage. Pardon me, sorry. The Mercedes of Brian Bromley also now using the outside line towards his advantage. Have a look at this, really starting to rotate the corner. 600th of a second, but still not able to get the move done. Brian Bromley only securing a P2.
Yeah, still in P2, and MX still holding on to those tyres. He must be getting close now to puncher territory. He's really risking it all. Here is that Williams driver. Possibly hoping for that safety car, but I just really can't see it coming for MX. I think he's going to have to pit sooner than later.
Yeah, well, just having a quick drink, but Brian Brumley, 4.5 tenths off the Williams all over again. It just looks like the Mercedes just can't get it secured in the bag. Brian is clearly faster in some parts of the track, and MX using what is the very degraded soft compounds, he's still trying to push as hard as he can in parts of the track where he is quicker. The McLaren of eBay Boy is now quicker than what the Mercedes, or is now closer to the Mercedes than what the Mercedes is to the Williams. 6 tenths from Brian Brumley to MX, 2.5 to McLaren of eBay Boy to Brian Brumley. This is going to get very, very close. Bad exit from the McLaren, however. Good exit from the Mercedes. This could get close all over again, and you're right. You're right. MX is now into the pit lane. Brian Brumley will now take the lead of the race, and Mehdi will also take P2 away from the McLaren, even with DRS. McLaren using the disadvantages of, well, dirty air, and though we had DRS, Aston Martin had a better tow from it, and the ERS flashing away on Brian Brumley on the rear of the car, as you can see right there. Mehdi ML currently in P2 as he's trying to get some advantage against the Mercedes, trying to use all the pace he's possibly got to potentially make another move upwards.
It's quite interesting to see MX there go for a medium compound. So MX has gone from a soft to a medium compound, and he's back out on track in P7. Let's see how fast he can get through these back markers.
Well, the real question is, the way we're going to have to observe this is using the other drivers. Currently, from what my very, very reliable source of notes are from, 18 laps is what the mediums can last, so they can last another 6-ish laps before they may need to really start considering coming into the pit lane. And what I can tell you, Mehdi going to potentially think about making a move, doesn't make the move, shuts DRS slightly early, and right on the rear diffuser of the Mercedes out of the exit of what was turn 11, sorry. But yeah, for the time being, Mehdi and Mercedes of Brian Brumley will continue to fight away out in front. Yeah, but take eBay Boy, he's currently on the mediums. Also take Sam RR, Matt MX, who's just come on, and Jeneth. Currently lap 13 of 29. We haven't officially made it halfway, but getting very, very close to it. Let's take eBay Boy, who's on those medium compounds. Just a perfect example. Currently fighting away with the Aston Martin and Mehdi, who's going to be getting dirty air as well. I'd say for him, including dirty air, including degradation, looks like Sam RR is already coming in, but eBay may need to think about boxing now to cover off a potential undercut by Sam RR, and also MX using that undercut strategy towards their advantage. I think MX could go to the end of this race with those mediums.
He certainly could go to the end of the race with those mediums. It's just what pace they will have at the end of the race, and can he pull enough of a gap away now that he's out on fresh compound tyres and going for that undercut, or will the boys be able to hang out for the overcut later on in the race?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, even though we've had plenty of action on display at the moment, especially at the front of the field, I feel like I keep repeating the same things. Brian Brumley getting a move on, or Mehdi getting a good amount of pace and really starting to get in a decent advantage against the Mercedes. And then,
if you're looking for something different, there's a bit of a battle happening between Buster and Alan Santa in P8 and P9.
Oh, what I can tell you, Buster's about to potentially go for P7, currently in P8, using the outside line and going into 9 and 10, just waiting for another opportunity. Doesn't get it, but I tell you what, he's going to get a really nice tow and slipstream, and if he can get that power down, he could get a really good exit as well, and that's exactly what he's done, using DRS and a little bit of battery towards his advantage. The Alpine up to P7. Fantastic move from Buster, and Alan Santa right behind the Ferrari as well. It could be a double move done and dusted before this lap is even done, and Jeneth could be 2 positions lower than where it started. eBay Boy is now into the pit lane, so clearly not taking any risks on those medium compounds, and potentially also just covering off the undercut that has been shown for the medium runners, or for the drivers who are currently running the mediums. MX 132.087, fastest lap now secured for the Williams driver. MX up to P5, and clearly that undercut strategy working in his favour, as he obviously does set down the fastest time currently in this race. Marty B up to P9, Sam RR up to P10, Jeneth into the pit lane. But yeah, clearly that undercut strategy working in the Williams' favour, and clearly those medium runners trying to cover off the undercut by coming into the pit lane and not working out.
You can see they're basically just looking at who's pitted and who's not. So MX was the first, of course, to pit there in P5. E-Boy Bay there in P6. Alan Santa in P7 was also pitted. Busta has also pitted. So these guys all looking to go for the undercut. Marty B is also pitted. Sam RR in P10. has also made his first pit stop, going from medium to hard. I'm surprised to see Sam holding the hards on at this stage of the race, but not bad there from the Western Sydney driver. Let's see how he can get that big ass home for the whole season.
Or you could say Haas.
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 My Haas.
Anyway, enough with whatever that was from Wayne O'Morris there. 500 sounds time. Mehdi comes into the pit lane. Brian Bromley still going to continue with his lead in this race, and he has taken the lead ever since MX did come into the pit lane. But I'll tell you what, MX only 5.7, including the 9.1. He's looking very, very dangerous at the moment. We switch over to the leader gap. You can see 14.8 seconds separates MX in P3 to Brian Bromley in P1. And I'll tell you what, Brian has well and truly stayed too late on those tyres. I mean, yes, the hard compounds would probably still be in its sweet spot. Maybe if we're looking at other telemetry points, obviously using the C1 compounds, you'd be starting to reach maybe 110 degrees, 115, and that's when we can start to see a bit more degradation. Those tyres would be overheating. They would not be cooling down, that's for sure. But no, Brian Bromley will be starting to reach the maximum of what those tyres can go. 20 laps is that exact number, and from what I'm currently seeing, could be well and truly overheating those tyres if that is the case, and having quite a high percentage on those tyres. But for the time being, looks like he's cruising out in the lead of this race, and MX needs to keep fighting away to try and bring himself closer.
MX is really proving that season off last year while he was studying or racing elsewhere is really not affected his pace, and he's always had wonderful pace, and might even have too much pace for this tier 2 at this stage of the season.
Well, let's quickly enable some telemetry for any potential race engineer who may be watching, but also for personal fun. Also looks like Tetra's coming into the pit lane as well, and those 16-lap-old hard compounds working in the favour of the strategy of MX. And right now the Williams is looking quite dominant on strategy. If we have a look, we no longer need to use the leader gaps because 12 points is roughly 18 to 20 seconds. I tell you what, MX has a fantastic chance of retaking this lead of the race and also potentially winning it from that point onwards. VSC Batman up to P10, using the strategy. It's just boxing a lot earlier compared to a lot of other drivers, making the most of it. Not bad from the Red Bull on those hard compound tyres. We'd obviously expect them to go on the end of the race on those tyres.
Just speaking of pit stops and Brian Bromley's current lead, I can report that Tetris had spent 19.7 seconds in the pit stop, including his stoppage time. So that's in and out time of the pits is 19.7 seconds for Tetris. So, that'll really open up the lead then for MX on those medium compound tyres. But as I was saying earlier, it'd be interesting to see what condition and what pace he has at the end of the race when we get to lap 25, let's say. Can Brian Bromley make those? I'm thinking Brian Bromley's going to switch to a soft compound. Of course,
could be. Broseph Coupe up to P11, making the move on TMT Legend down in P12. But what I can say, if we also just focus on the most of the field at the moment, the gaps are very, very different in between most of the field. Looks like the Aston Martin oodling with the pedal out of the exit of turn 14 and 15. You can see DRS now active for Mehdi, using the most and getting the most traction through down the inside, late on the brakes, and the Aston Martin with no problems there. Up to P3 goes the driver, and back into the podium positions goes Mehdi.
Yeah, so Mehdi, of course, starting there in P4. But yeah, as you say, back into P3. Great job from the Aston driver. Unfortunately, his teammate had other engagements for tonight's race, and has fortunately missed out on pre-seasons. Just see someone's lit up the timing sector there in sector 1 with a purple sector 1. Just not showing which driver that is at the moment, unfortunately. But yeah, somebody's just lit up the sector 1 there with a purple sector 1.
Well, whatever the case may be, fastest lap currently a 32.087 for MX as we continue through lap after lap here in Bahrain. Closest gap at the moment currently is 6.5 tenths between eBay Boy in P4 and Medi in P3, but like we just saw earlier on, Medi did just get that move stuck in stone, so it really is the question, can Medi get that power down and try and create the gap necessary where DRS is no longer a available option for eBay? It won't be happening going through the first couple sectors, I assume. Obviously at the exit of turn 15 we shall see DRS active for the McLaren, but will he get DRS going through onto the next corner? Well, you'd hopefully assume using the DRS that eBay Boy has. Brian Bromley into the pit lane, now down to P4. Apparently from, if we're talking in the Twitch chat, Dunno saying Brian will be behind Sam. That could become true, but Sam and Brian will exit well, I guess together out of the exit of turn 1, and the Mercedes of Brian Bromley does stay ahead, but for how much longer? Because much colder tyres compared to Sam. Will be able to keep move stuck and secure, or will Sam make the move going through turn 4? Well, it does look like it is the favour of Haas, and also looks like Haas nearly lost the car right there.
Yeah, Vossi Sam cut that corner a little bit tight, and you could see Brian Bromley went a lot wider line and was able to pull away or open a gap from Sam just that little bit, and has already got out of the DRS zone of Sam on those medium compound tyres.
Yeah, and Granny Fatty now taking not pole position, my apologies, from the race, but he's taken fastest lap here in the race, to speak on actual terms here, as we continue to go racing around the Bahrain International Circuit.
But what a great race these guys are having. Currently no penalties on track at all, so all drivers are currently penalty free. Of course, let's see who's the biggest movers and biggest shakers of the race so far. We've got two biggest moves are 3 spots, and the biggest downs, Brian Bromley currently, of course, only because of his pit stop, down 5 positions. We expect him to be clawing back up those positions anytime soon. And then Granny Feth also down 5 positions from P9 qualifying all the way down.
Oh, Alpine outside line, just having a look at Buster. Thought about making the move and well and truly nowhere near to go for it, but he was well and truly late on the brakes as the P6, 5 and 4 drivers continue to rotate their cars through the first couple of corners. And have a look at Brian Bromley late on the brakes, going to try and squeeze out the McLaren, and Marty B does so, and Brian is on the attack because he knows he's only got 9 laps of action. If we have a quick look, MX on 7 lap old medium compounds, Brian on 1 lap old medium compounds. He'd be getting those tyres up to temperature, and it's going to be move after move out of the exit of turn 8. He's going to make it 2 Trailer Park Girls around the outside, using the outside line towards his advantage, and Brian Bromley up to P4, 5.6 seconds apart between P4 and P3. But if that is the case of him having just extra rubber, extra grip, and using everything he's got towards his advantage, Brian Bromley could see not only a podium but also another opportunity at a shot of the lead.
Well, he's now currently just under 11 seconds behind the leader at this stage of the race. So Brian Bromley's certainly on a charge on this. He went to the medium compound late in the race, so he's going to try and make that a fresher compound work for him and see if he can pull it off.
Well, he's still got a bit of a way to go. 8 laps remaining, including, well, actually 9 if we're including this one, but 8 in the overall numbers of laps remaining. eBay Boy 6 tenths, now 7 tenths away. That DRS is the main factor for the difference between P3 and P4. It's the main reason that Brian Bromley hasn't been able to bring himself closer. That extra grip will still be a massive advantage and a big head start for the Mercedes of Brian Bromley, but that DRS, if he can try and stay with it, he's nearly 9 tenths behind on the Aston Martin, now is over 9 tenths. Will it be 1 second going into the thirds or into the second sector, the next main DRS point, going into the DRS detection zone? He's just picked it up by the nick of time, but I'll tell you what, very, very close there.
I'm just watching this gap between MX and Medi now. Currently sitting at 3 seconds. So let's see if Medi can pull in MX.
Well, from looks like Dunno has picked it up exactly when you've picked it up. Medi and Brian are flying, he says in the Twitch chat. And you know what? You're exactly right. Brian now 4.7 seconds behind, even with eBay picking up DRS, which shows you that grip advantage that those medium C2 compounds are showing for the time being. And they will continue to fight away. 4.5 tenths slower than the softs, and 2.5 tenths quicker than the hards. And Brian will need to keep fighting as much as possible. The McLaren of eBay Boy still trying to use DRS, but 4.4 seconds now is the gap between Brian and eBay. Medi 2.8 between him and MX in P1, and we could not only just see Brian Bromley potentially fight for the lead if it does get to that point, but also Medi, who could be well and truly quicker than both Brian Bromley and MX, but that is a question we'll have to answer if we get to that point in the race where it is going to be a three-way battle and Brian Bromley can get the gap down enough where he can make the move on eBay Boy. It is a stretch, but if he can get past eBay Boy, he's going to be in the fight for the lead, but he just needs to try.
It is certainly a big gap at the moment, but he's closed that gap within 6 tenths. Just in that last lap alone was Brian Bromley, was fastest in all sectors 1, 2 and 3 by 6 tenths of a second over E-Boy. So he's certainly reeling them in.
Yeah, well, right now McLaren of eBay Boy 9 tenths away. He's really starting to. I mean, look at it. I mean, 9 nearly. He's getting so close. He is really just scraping that DRS at the moment. There you can see over 1 second, and I was just kind of anticipating it because there's only one thing that Mercedes can anticipate, and that was for the McLaren to be outside of the DRS point, but going into the DRS detection zone. Once again, eBay Boy just secures DRS, and it is the main reason that gap hasn't started to shred down in time. It's because eBay Boy keeps picking up that thing, the DRS flap opening. If that thing shuts and it stays shut, you're going to see Brian Bromley really start to be on the attack. It's the main reason eBay Boy has been able to stay in the position he's been able to stay in. I'm sure he's begging and praying behind the visor of his helmet, please, for the love of God, let me keep the podium position. I need to give it everything I've got because Brian Bromley is on my ass, and hopefully by the end of the race I don't have to deal with him.
Certainly, the crazy Kiwi you certainly don't want on your chasing your ass is Brian Bromley. But eBay Boy is flashing and flashing hard there on those hard compound tyres. He's mashing that button there of the ERS, trying to stay with Medi just in front of him. But look at Medi, he's now got that gap down to just 1 second, and will soon be in the DRS activation zone of MX in front of him. So MX, while he went soft to medium compound, just maybe those tyres are starting to let go in front in that Williams. But it's one thing catching, he's got to get past, and I know MX has got some great skills on the controller.
Yeah, well, McLaren of eBay Boy currently in P3, 7.5 tenths. It's clear that Medi trying to build that anticipation, trying to build a much stronger foundation for a potential attack against MX. This is also going to bring both eBay Boy and Medi closer to the Williams because of the fact that Medi may be also just staying a touch cautious towards that Williams. Maybe a bit too early to do so. 1.5 seconds slower than its fastest lap. And right now, eBay Boy is going to try and take full advantage of it. Brian Bromley has only made another tenth or two in this time, but Dunno says, go on board MX, please. Not happening, no. Because MX is out in the lead of the race, and then you don't get to see any of the other people racing, and that's not really fair on the spectators, is it? But what we will do is give you a nice onboard of the Aston Martin of Medi, because he's about to potentially take the lead of this race, Dunno, and that is something we can keep on board with, because Medi 3 tenths away from potentially making a move for what will be the final position he could potentially make, the lead. P1, a potential win in the very close distance. 3.6 seconds is Brian Bromley to eBay Boy. I was going to say Easy Boy, but it isn't easy for eBay because eBay still needs to try and give it his absolute all and try and stay inside that DRS. What I can say who it is easy for Medi. Staying inside that DRS, which is he's really been inside for a couple of laps now, but closer than it ever has been before, ladies and gentlemen. Aston Martin's on the attack. We're going to have a couple final laps of racing here on lap 24 of 29. We have 6 laps including this one, nearly 5 laps as we nearly come to a close here in the racing piece of Bahrain, and nearly starting to go into the slow laps of racing, where you get to celebrate, cheer with the crowd cheers you, go onto the podium, spray the champagne. It's a dream for a lot of these drivers, but to reach that point you got to do one final thing, and that is overtake for a lead or defend with your absolute life. Aston Martin going to take the outside line. Mehdi for the lead of the race. He's taken it for the time being. Williams will not give out without a fight. Oh wow, bit of contact to the side pod there on the right hand side. Aston Martin takes the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix here in Tier 2 pre-season. Mehdi leads the Bahrain Grand Prix, but it isn't done yet. MX using the advantage of DRS. The Williams back up into the lead. eBay boys now going to use the inside line towards advantage. Now using the outside. Is he going to stay where he is? Yes, he is. Looks like lay on the brakes all over again. Here comes the McLaren down towards turn 8 once again on the outside line. Late on the brakes. Not done yet. The Aston Martin and Mehdi once again P2. 6.5 tenths separating P2 and P1, and 2 tenths separating P3 to P2. It's still not done, and it will not be done all the way until lap 29 when that checkered flag is waved for one driver and one driver alone. eBay boy causing massive issues for the Aston Martin of Mehdi. This is really starting to block the progress that he's all been making through this entire Grand Prix. Brian, look at Brian Bromley. 1.3 seconds separates P4 to the podium positions.
Yeah, these guys fighting ahead is making Brian Bromley lick his lips. The crazy Kiwi has got the bit between his teeth, and he's going to join this three-way party of MX, Mehdi and E-Boy to make it a four-way for this last 4 laps of the race. This is going to be unbelievable racing.
Well, I'll tell you what, it isn't done yet, and I've been saying this through this entire part of this racing, but Williams switching over to the inside line. Mehdi on the outside. DRS shuts well and truly. Once again, the Williams defending with all his glory. Looks like Aston Martin has it for the time being, but I spoke too soon last time. Will it be speaking too soon now? Looks like MX once again with the momentum towards the advantage. Now have a look at the Williams inside line. P1 now secured all over again. Aston Martin gonna have the outside, trying to put that throttle down as quickly as possible, but it isn't done yet. MX up to P1. MX gets the lead secure. MX continues to defend with all his glory. MX will potentially win this race. Mehdi could potentially win this race. Even eBay Boy still has an opportunity to win this race. 4 tenths separating Brian Bromley to eBay Boy. Even Brian still has an opportunity to win this race, ladies and gentlemen. We have a 4-way battle for the race win here in Bahrain.
Wow, unbelievable. And who would have thought Crazy Kiwi could have closed the gap so quick? But these guys have been doing him a favour, fighting so hard up in front. They should have worked together and pulled away and left it to the last couple of laps to have their own fight. But we are getting into the closing laps, of course, and MX still holding on with these 13-lap old medium tyres versus Mehdi 10 laps. And, of course, eBay Boy there doing a great job. These hard tyres of his will just be coming, starting to be the more advantageous tyre in this race. So, but of course, Brian Bromley then on these 7-lap old mediums, who's joined this
yellow flag.
battle.
Alfa Romeo making a mistake. What I can tell you, if Mehdi tries to go for the same move that he's been making over the past 3, maybe 4 laps of action, it may not even work in his favor. 1.5 tenths. The Williams could just regain another move. Have a look at that. Under the RPM meter, you can see a yellow fuel light now detected on MX's car. Maybe he's pushed so hard, and now also Brian Bromley down the inside of eBay Boy up to P3 into the podium positions, now secured for the Mercedes. It was a long time coming. And eBay Boy really aggressive on the attack back at him. Outside line switches to the inside, and P3 once again secure for the McLaren.
Wow. eBay Boy really proving he's worth on track this day. He's not letting those positions go easy, and nor should he. It's MX still leading this race. He's led it the whole way, but you're right there about the fuel. He could be in trouble. Let's see. Mehdi's been holding back just a little bit, where eBay Boy's also been on the battery burn. So, and then Brian Bromley's got his helmet well positioned. We can't see his wheel, but looks like he's supporting the Vegas track there with his helmet design.
Well, looks like MX going into 14 and 15. Medi going into 14 and 15. 3 drivers with DRS. 1 winner. Penultimate lap of racing, ladies and gentlemen. Williams of MX once again taking down to P2. Will to action between the Aston Martin and Williams. Once again bumping Will. eBay Boyd, like you said, Will to action going through turn 2. The Williams coming back at him. MX going into P1. He takes the lead of the race all over again. We've seen this multiple times before. It isn't done yet. Looks like Aston Martin could get another opportunity at potentially attacking for the lead, but for the time being, he keeps P2. He's going to keep the momentum he's had all race long, and for the time being, he will need to try and just preserve everything he's got for one final attack here at Bahrain, lap 28 of 29. Like I said, penultimate lap of racing. Brian Bromley versus eBay Boy. eBay Boy versus Medi. Medi versus MX. The four-way battle continues all the way to the checkered flag.
Wow, I can't believe MX just keeps retaking that position. Medi might be well not to activate. I guess he's got to activate that DRS in defense of eBay Boy on the start finish straight. Of course, he's got to activate that wing. He's got no choice, otherwise he'll be left sitting.
Well, what I will say, actually, another thing I've been mentioned to have a look at is ERS, and if you have a look at Medi, 75% ERS, MX only 11% ERS. As we go on to the final lap of action, Medi has the DRS, good toe, good slipstream, takes the outside line. Medi takes the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix, dumps all the battery he's possibly got. Brian Bromley P3 for the time being, outside line all over again. The McLaren's going to try and fight with all his glory. Looks like he has all the glory he possibly could have. Looks like DRS once again active for the Mercedes of Brian Bromley. Can Brian Bromley sneak onto the podium on the final lap of action? Aston Martin has it secure through turn 4. Oh, Mercedes nearly into the barrier, getting a bit too overzealous with the throttle for the time being. Brian Bromley in P4. Mercedes once again loses out on position as he just, like I said, got a bit overzealous on the throttle for the time being. eBay Boy in P3. Looks like McLaren's going to continue to fight away all the way to the checkered flag, which is only 3 kilometers away, ladies and gentlemen. We are so close to the end of this race, and it's looking so secure for one man and one driver, number 46 on that Aston Martin. Right now, we'll have to focus on the other action, however. eBay Boy only 2/10 away from MX in the Williams. Can he get it done here on lap 29 of 29? Doesn't look like it's done for the time being. Going up in elevation towards 11 and 12. Now at the peak of the hill at turn 13. Rotating the car towards his advantage. Have a look at the McLaren down into the straight. One final chance for the McLaren. Doesn't look like it would work in his favour. Medi's done everything to perfection. Had the ERS, had the fuel, had the tyre advantage. Ladies and gentlemen, here at Bahrain, Medi ML for Aston Martin wins the Bahrain Grand Prix.
I think MX must have run out of fuel there at the end. He's lost 2 positions just before after the last turns. Very unfortunate there for MX, but what a race by Medi. I'm so proud of the boy. We'll be cheering in the Aston sheds tonight.
I mean, to lose fuel on the final lap and then also to start on pole, I feel so unfortunate for MX, who had such a fantastic race. Didn't preserve to the best of his ability, clearly didn't know what the fuel needed to be, and ends on the race in P4 out of the podium. Unfortunate for the Williams, as that is all he could set on the board. Fireworks start to be on display here at what is Bahrain, here near the Red Sea of the Middle East. And the battle comes to an end, and Medi ML is your winner of Tier 2 Preseason. eBay Boy finishes in P2.
What a masterclass there by Medi ML. Masterclass of strategy. Sat there preserving the battery, sending that fakie into turn 1 over and over again, allowing MX to retake the lead in the second DRS zone. But Medi was just preserving the battery the whole time. It was a game of chess there by Medi.
Well, what I can tell you, podium also finishing off with Brian Bromley in the Mercedes, ladies and gentlemen. Podium is secure, race is done, driver of the day apparently goes to Medi ML, but to be honest I would give it to Medi anyway. Though unfortunate with MX, who missed out on the fuel and fell down to P4, and he had a fantastic race starting on pole. It is Mehdi for me who takes driver of the day, not only because he won the race, but also just that mindset he came into it, the genius of his strategy and the genius of how he played that. Now sees himself on P1, and they get to spray champagne with celebration in their eyes, glory, as they once again step onto another podium. Probably not their final one in their careers, but Aston Martin will be delighted.
Yeah, absolutely. We're delighted. Great performance last night on Australia Day from JDOS to take P1 last night, P1 again tonight. Let's hope we're not peaking too early in the Aston camp, but what a great pre-season we are having. I'm just going to try get the boys into a party chat.
Yeah.
We'll lead us away. So invites are out, guys. If you're out there in Twitchland and you're listening, Brian Bromley, eBay Boy, and Mehdi ML, you all have invites to join my party chat. So it's under Wayne Morris instead of IRL comms. So if you want to come join us in the party chat, let us know how your pre-season race went. Did it go to your expectations? Had you goals going into the race? Did you achieve your goals? Let's see how these guys went. Let's hope they will come join us soon. I'll try jump into Discord as well. Let them know we are waiting on them. Yeah. What a call, JP. As always, you bring an amazing excitement to the race. What did you think of that race?
It was good. It was something to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah, certainly a bit of a spectacle. Great finish from Tier 2 drivers in Inters Racing League. If the season is anything like that race and like the end of that race, wow, what a season we're in for.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, just out of breath at the moment. Just regaining small amount of consciousness, and then we'll be good for interviews. But no, I'm an idiot actually, because I forgot to get a drink, and I regret that very much.
Well, that's probably the time of the race catching you out, as you were just saying before. We've had Mehdi join us in the chat. If you Mehdi, what a race, buddy! Welcome to Team Aston, Mehdi, and to the first podium of the season. Well done, bud.
Yeah, look, I think that's what we're aiming for all season, let's be honest. No, that was smooth.
That's the
that
goal.
was very smooth.
Yeah, well done. Looks like you were playing a game of chess there, not a game of checkers.
Yeah. No, look, it was. I think once MX set up for so long with those softs, and then Brian set up for long, I think we kind of knew what was going to happen. And I had more than enough pace to catch MX, which is good. I had Mercy in my ear, trust me, engineering the whole time as well, so he was just letting me know sort of where we were sitting, how fast I was getting, and pretty much when to burn battery. So coming into that last lap with 70%, I think all but won it then.
Very good, very good. Waiting for the others to join us in the box, and JP is just trying to organise himself a beverage, I believe. So tell us, we expecting to be on the podium?
I'm expecting to win races, to be honest.
That's why I got you on the team.
I would, yeah. No, look, I think realistically, I want to be winning this season and proving the worth. I went first pick last season and didn't do an awful lot with it. Poor ads, but hopefully this season I can actually do something. So
yeah,
that'd be ideal.
That could be down to ads captaincy as well. But anyway, I just thought I'd have that little dig.
Right, hello boys.
And JP is back. JP, we've currently only got Mehdi in the comms block, because I'll try to get the other two guys in. Brian
Oh,
Bromley's
well, there's
joined
Brian
us as
Bromley.
well.
There's your P3. But, Mehdi, tell me, how'd the race go from your perspective, man?
No, it was pretty smooth. I kind of performed based on what everyone else was doing. As soon as MX started soft, so I was pretty confident. And then Brian sort of set out a couple more laps, which then I think helped me as well, because I kind of knew he was coming out probably 3 or 4 cars deep, so he had a bit of work to do. So I think we just kind of timed the pitting well, and as long as the race pace was fine, that was an easy enough win to bring home, I think.
Yeah, as I was just going to mention, you had a really, really good strategy, and I was going to ask if you had a potential strategist in your ear, but it did seem like you may have had that.
I had the lovely Mercy ML.
Ah, yes.
The handsome, the wonderful. But he was very, very polite in my ear, helping us out and giving us the right information when I needed it. So it was,
Yeah, fair
it was
enough,
good.
fair enough. Well, either way, a fantastic win on your part. Obviously did catch out MX, who just seemed to go a bit long on those tyres, and a well and truly deserved P1.
Yeah, I think the softs was a gamble, and I think he didn't get enough distance from us to start, so I think that was a fail, to be honest. But worth trying in pre-season, I suppose. But I want to shout out to eBay, man. That was a heck of a race for the bloke on the hards. I thought he was going to be in trouble, and he seriously put in some stints. So
a little bit of information for him as well is he had a red fuel light on the final lap, so
I did hear this. I also heard MX had a bit of a fuel light on as well. So
he did.
I'm not going to praise Brian, because I feel like he's going to be my rival this year, so he can get stuffed.
Ooh.
And game on.
Oh. Well, speaking of the man, Brian Bromley, how would you come back from that, sir?
I don't know. Early in the season, well, the season had started yet. I went way too long on the hards.
Right. Well,
and then forgot to change my tyres because I wanted to go soft at the end, but I forgot.
Yeah. Well,
I
obviously.
thought you were going hard to soft, and do you have that problem often?
Nah, I just forgot to change it. And I was going to put the lap after Mercy, but I kind of zoned out for a couple of laps. So.
You looked like you were signed to gain on the gap of eBay, but obviously using the DRS, that McLaren was just able to fend off that gap a little longer. Was there a clean battle once you got the opportunity to potentially attack against them?
Oh yeah, it was all clean. The battle was near the start with the MX was clean, and then the battle near the end was all clean, so didn't really have a problem with any contact passing cars.
Fair enough. Well, how do you believe your chances are this season? Just championship-wise?
Oh, I'm winning the championship. That's it.
Well.
That's cap.
Ooh.
That's not.
Interesting.
Boy, into the party. I've got eBay boy invite. I've been sent 3 times now. So eBay boy, if you're listening.
Well, the tongue-twisting name of eBay boy is clearly unavailable, but what I will ask for the both of you boys, Barcelona, 2nd to the 4th of Feb. Chances of potential win there going into round 1? High, interesting.
Sorry, I missed that question.
Oh, I said chances of Barcelona next week. How do you feel? How confident are you feeling?
Oh mate, I love it there. I think I said to Wayne earlier today, I think this is probably my worst track on the game, so I'm actually kind of surprised that I drove well enough today. But Spain will be exciting. I think it's a good opening race. It's a quick track, and see how clean. I mean, if the season's as clean as that race was, that should be good.
Yeah.
Good season.
I mean, the McLaren boys both pushed me wide in turn 1 about 3 times, but that's fine. Other than that, pretty clean.
We've seen a bit of wheel rubbing going into turn 1 a couple of times. Anything that if it was a normal league race, you'd be reporting to the stewards on?
I don't know. It depends what the outcome would have been, because it is pre-season, so essentially I wouldn't really fight too much in return. But if I wanted to sort of continue on the inside going into turn 2, that's a prime spot to spin. So I think that was pretty silly. But look, it is what it is. It's hard racing. I appreciate that at the same time, and I think we're still pretty clean for the most part.
It's certainly made for some interesting viewing from our point of view, some breathtaking action into turn 1, 2 and 3 from you guys, challenging eBay boy lap after lap, and then MX there at the end. But yeah, great race from yourself, Mehdi, again. Also, the game's driver of the day, and both myself and JP
JB, you got
also
it.
called you driver of the day. You only missed out on the pole, buddy. Can you make it a clean slate next week in Barcelona?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my last lap for the qualifying, but I really missed on the braking into turn one, and that was awful. So, and I think I only just missed out on the fastest lap by a smidge as well. Then, so that's hopefully we'll do 4 for 4 for next week.
Yeah, let's go for it. Aim high, achieve high. Let's go, Team Aston.
I'll see you boys next week.
See you next week.
Yeah, see ya. Well, I guess from the commentary box and from the interviews, it does seem it brings us to the end of what has been a fantastic Tier 2 pre-season race, and great interview questions there, Wayno. Either way, what I can say is goodbye for now, ladies and gentlemen. Don't know if I will be commentating very often, but I will try and fill in when I can. You'll probably see me most Saturdays more than any other time, and potentially Sundays, but that is a potential. Either way, cheers from me and Wayne Morris in the commentary box. I'm gonna go chug an entire 5 litres of water, and we will, or I will, or maybe you, Wayne will, or however it may be next time comms go live. They will see you next time. Cheers and goodbye.